All right, another episode of A Podcast. Your host Stephen Maxted, and today we have Daniel Behar with Skibikes on here. Hopefully, I nailed that. Okay, but there's and you're up in the mountains. Where you're Lake Tahoe, right?
Yeah, we're right on the Nevada side of Lake Tahoe, right by South Lake Tahoe. I live about 2 minutes away from Heavenly Mountain Resort, and I ride ski bikes.
Awesome. Daniel, it was super cool to connect, man. I've been following you somehow, your high algorithm, and as you were talking before, a passionate cyclist. I've done a couple ventures in the bike area myself. I was pumped when I saw the product, and if someone hasn't already seen it, we'll get into kind of maybe showing it off a little bit behind you here, but basically you guys are involved in a business that helps get people out and being active in a couple different ways, but the main thing we'll talk about today for a good chunk of it is the ski bikes themselves. And I think it just reminds me of seeing videos of kind of when snowboarding was first starting, and people being like, oh my gosh, like what is this? I'm sure you've seen some of them, right? They're like, what is this thing that's going to wreck all the ski hills, so to say. I don't know if people are having the same impression of that with this product, but it just kind of reminds me of like a new age snowboard.
So it's so funny that you said that, because pretty much everybody who's in the ski bike industry and the culture who rides a ski bike will always compare it to, we are just like snowboarders in the 80s.
Oh my gosh.
People see us riding around. They don't know what it is. Different ski slopes are just coming around to letting us onto their mountain. Some of them still haven't really came around to it. So we're not allowed at, probably about 40% of the resorts in North America. But slowly but surely we're picking up traction, and we definitely think this is the biggest innovation in the snow sports industry since the invention of the snowboard. And we see ourselves as we're going to be the third piece of equipment that you're going to be able to ride on the mountain.
Awesome, man. Well, that's super great. Dan, you know what? I should maybe start off before we get into the weeds on this thing is like, hey, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got involved with the ski bike, because I think this is an important part of the journey too.
All right. So I grew up in the Bay Area. My family would come up to Tahoe once or twice a year and do a little bit of skiing. I was a snowboarder myself, and I've always just super been into, action or extreme sports. I'm a super avid mountain biker and dirt biker. I spent some time pursuing a dirt bike racing career and kept getting super injured. And, I still have a love for things with two wheels and dirt. But as soon as I saw the ski bike for the first time, I saw somebody riding it. I made sure that I caught the same chairlift up with him. I was asking him all about his bike. And by the time we got to the top of the chairlift, we had made an agreement that I was going to buy his extra ski bike that he had laying around. And it was on my first day riding the ski bike. I was actually at a mountain in North Lake Tahoe called North Star, and it was a ski bike rally. It just so happened my first day riding, there was a whole gang of ski bikers there, and I got to meet the one of the owners of the company that makes this bike that I ride, Skibike, and all these other people who are big into the ski bike industry and culture. And it's just, whenever you get on one of these, everybody's looking at you. They're saying, hey, what is that thing? And that's pretty cool. But for me, it was just the fact that I had so much fun riding the ski bike. I've never ridden my snowboard once since. And
oh my gosh.
So I had like 5 days on that ski bike, or on that snowboard trip, where I got the ski bike and I rode my ski bike for 5 days, and then I went back to college, and I just couldn't stop thinking about ski bikes. It was completely, overriding everything else that I could possibly be doing or thinking about. So I decided that I needed to take some time off of school and move back up here to Tahoe and really try and see what I could do to get the most amount of people on ski bikes and share this new thing that I learned about with the world, because it seems like the most obvious thing. Anybody who likes bikes and wants to be on the snow right now, the ski bike is the perfect solution. It's also awesome because it's so much easier on the body than skiing and snowboarding is. So a lot of people who, for whatever reasons, aren't able to ride traditional snow equipment, skis or snowboards, that is, find that they're going to be able to get on the ski bike and just have as much fun as they would be having on a ski or a snowboard. But but they're actually able to do it, and it's not hurting their back or their knees. And yeah, it's just a game changer out on the slopes.
It's so interesting you mentioned like, or what I heard you kind of say there too, is just like the accessibility to be able to use this product versus some other ones out there. And, I had a chat this week and just talking about how, like we really need to make an effort to make sports more, like easily accessible in terms of like the skill set. And I think a weird comparison maybe, but pickleball has done a really great job of making it easier for people to be active in a way, instead of having to learn tennis for, like so many years, so to say. And I feel the same way when you're talking about this product versus snowboarding, which I grew up snowboarding as well. It was the first thing I had strapped to my feet going down a hill. Then I got into skiing later on, and now I can do both. But I mean, it was kind of always kind of having that athleticism behind me, but not everyone can have that necessarily. And it's nice to have products that are a little bit easier to, less, so to say, build up to getting okay at them, with the ability to, ride down. Obviously there's still skill involved here, but I think it's awesome the way that you just recap that in terms of, you do make it look easy. I've seen the videos going down hill and riding these things, but it's really cool to hear you talk about it in that way, because you're right. Like a lot of people do get knee injuries, or this is other sports can be harder on your knees, and there's a few different variations of skis that exist out there, hopefully to be more inclusive. But I think this is super awesome. So when you're riding the thing down, is there like a leash or something attached to it so it doesn't go barreling down in case you were to lose it, or how does that work with this product?
Beautiful question. So most of the resorts that we do ride, not all of them, but most of them do require that we wear a leash. I can show you mine real quick.
For sure.
So we're generally required to wear this leash by the rules, but the funny part about it is the ski bike pretty much always stops before you stop in the event of a crash. So it's going to stop moving down the hill before you. So it's kind of like a unnecessary piece of equipment. So if you, when snowboards first came out, snowboarders were required to also wear a leash attached to the board. And we compare it to that, because nowadays you never really see a snowboarder wearing a leash on their snowboard. You strap it in. And we kind of feel like the leash adds an element of sketchiness for if there was a major incident where the bike were to fall off the chairlift. I've never really seen it happen, but it's a extremely unlikely but possible scenario. That leash is going to attach you to the ski bike. So it's not only going to be your 25, 30-pound ski bike falling off the chairlift, it's also going to be your full-grown adult falling off the chairlift and getting injured. So generally the ski bikers aren't too fond of it, but we kind of have this feeling in the culture where we want to follow all the rules we can right now and kind of put a really good name to all the ski bikers. So we all wear our leashes when we're on, but we're not fond of them.
That makes a lot. It's almost like having, like a safety harness when you're 3 feet off the ground and the safety harness is like 6 feet long, right? Like you're going to hit the ground before, it's in theory a good idea. And I totally forgot that as a snowboarder, we used to have to wear those going out west originally when I was first starting, because it was still new. I was pretty young when I started that, and I got a few years on you, as we were talking about before, but I had like a flashback of visiting buddies who lived on the mountains and stuff, and we were chatting earlier, and I think you're just in like a really cool time in history to be part of ski bike culture. So this is super exciting to hear you chat about it. What about, like, do these bikes have brakes? How do you stop when you're on them? This might be like a super simple question to inquire about, but as a cyclist, I'm thinking brakes, but how do you stop on these things?
Yeah, so it's the same braking system that you're going to use on your ski or your snowboard. You're going to kind of turn the bike to the edge and dig your edges into the snow, and that's how you slow down. It sounds sort of complicated, but if you already know how to ski and how to ride a bike, when you get on the ski bike, you pretty much already have all the tools you need to figure out how to ride it. It's just going to take you a few runs to put it all together, but it's absurd because the learning curve on these ski bikes is so much faster than skiing or snowboarding. Most riders are going to hop on them, and with 3 or 4 runs, they're going to feel almost as confident as they do on their skis or their snowboards that they've been riding for 20 years.
That's super cool. Okay, now what is on the design of the bike there? When you, I mean, obviously it looks kind of just like a regular bike, and then you have skis where the front tire and the back tire would be. What kind of modification, what makes this bike special in terms of it being a ski bike versus, a mountain bike that someone just straps skis onto, without making that sound stupid with how I ask that as well?
Oh, no, that's a really good question. So a lot of people, the original ski bikes were mountain bikes that they modified they put brackets on the front and, on the bottom of the front forks and on the rear axle, and they strapped some skis onto them. But as people rode those and kind of the industry progressed, they realized that you have a slightly different riding position on the ski bike than you would on a traditional mountain bike. You're a lot more positioned forwards on the ski bike, and that's because the way that we do a lot of our steering and turning revolves around swinging that rear around. So if you have more of your pressure towards the front of the bike and on your front ski, that allows your rear ski to move more backwards and forwards and kind of be looser and more free for you to make your turns. Because on a mountain bike, you kind of want more traction on your rear a lot of the times, and the dynamics of how you're going to be doing the turns has more to do with the gyroscopic effects of the wheels. But on the ski bike, it's much more about swinging your rear around and digging your edges into the snow to be able to make those turns.
That was awesome. That was a quick recap. And now specifics on this bike. We'll talk about some other stuff as we're going here, but I just need to get this out of my brain and understand more about the fundamentals of this bike, and I think listeners would be interested too. So now, is there shocks on the front end of this thing, or is it a dual suspension bike, or is it a hard frame, or is that like an added option, just like mountain bikes that you can get, where you can have different versions of these things?
Yeah, great question. So the brand that I'm associated with is Skibyk, and I really like this brand because their goal is to make a ski bike for the masses. They have by far the most affordable set of bikes that they sell. And yes, to answer your question directly, all of their bikes are full suspension. So we have forks in the front and a shock in the rear. And I'd say that's the main reason that draws people to ski bikes. It's because it's so much more of a smooth ride. Because, I got a balloon floating in here. If you're a skier or a snowboarder, you're going to experience a lot of kind of chatter that goes through your knees into your back when you're riding down bumpy stuff. And the major advantage to the ski bike is that your suspension takes away so much of that. So even if you're not riding on a perfect powder day, you're riding through chop or through, bumpier terrain, the suspension is going to do a lot of the work that generally your knees would be having to absorb. And it's probably the reason that, I'd say over 80% of the riders that ride these things are classified as senior citizens. And that's something that I'm trying to change about these bikes, because I think they're fun for everybody.
Well, they look like they're a blast for everyone. And I'm now curious, in terms of riding conditions that you can ride these things in, what does that look like? Because can you go into deep powder with these things, or I could see some maybe challenges existing there in terms of, experience even riding the snowboard. If you weren't leaning back far enough, different hills I've been on, mountains, I guess, rather, you come across different scenarios, same thing with skiing, but how do these things fare in different conditions?
Yeah, that's a great question. I almost want to move my camera so I can just kind of show you some different specs on the ski bike real quick. Is that cool?
For sure. Let's try to do it as slow as possible in terms of when you land it, because I know we're in a little bit of rough service given the fact that you're authentically in the mountains right now. So just go through it slow with us here, Daniel, and take your time kind of pointing and demoing, as it were.
Certainly. Okay, so
I love this so much.
So we have, one of the coolest parts is there's different skis that you can put on for different scenarios. So right now I have my all mountain skis on, but and they're kind of, I don't know, maybe about 3.5 inches thick. On the bigger powder days, I'm putting on these powder skis right here. They're called Dominators, and they're made by a company called Syndicate Skibike Designs. And they're thick. and I actually get much more float through the powder than almost anybody on the mountain when I'm on this. And that has to do with the fact that I have kind of a longer wheelbase, and with my super thick skis, I just have more flotation, more material under me to kind of help me get through. And then additionally, you can really lean back on the ski bike in a much more dynamic way than you might be able to on your snowboard. Instead of when you're riding your snowboard and you have to lean back, it's really putting quite a bit of pressure on your like ACL or knees, because you're kind of in a position like this. Whereas on the ski bike, I guess sort of more similar to skiing, but even more natural, I would say, you can really just lean back like a bike.
That makes a lot of sense. You're more like in a squat position, which does seem a little bit more natural in some ways, but on skis, you'd still have to be, for sure, leaning back a little bit more. I mean, for those who have snowboarded and skied, this will make a bit more sense. And for those who cycle, this, people in our kind of like wheelhouse of athletics, I would get that. So how does it attach when you have to swap out the different skis and stuff on here, Daniel? Like what's going on?
I was about to show you that, actually.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to rush you. And go slow on this one too.
Yeah, I'll go slow. But essentially, we have a system that is like, I guess, a modification or an add-on you can put on the bike. It's called a ride lock. So right where the skis attach, there's a little clip-in system. So, a scenario that I kind of run into often is we've gotten a bunch of powder overnight and I want my powder skis for the morning. But as soon as everything gets chopped out, I want a more narrow ski to kind of be a little bit more nimble and get through everything. And I'm not needing as much flotation through the deep stuff anymore. So I'll run back to my truck. I'll flip my bike upside down. I'm going to do that really quickly.
Sure.
And then in like literally 10 seconds, I take off my one ski, I put on my other ski, I click it in, and now, I can switch out both skis.
Unreal. We're getting a live demo here, folks. And I love it. This reminds me a lot of like clip-in bindings. I never actually went that way on snowboarding on my glory days, we'll say. But those seem very effective, and this seems very quick. So
right there, I just switched out my thin all-mountain skis for my super thick powder skis. And, now I'm ready to go slosh through the deepest pow you can find,
That's awesome. Very cool. And how about, so obviously there's no pedals, there's no gears on this thing. So your feet position, and I think I'm seeing the answer as I'm saying this or asking this in a way, but your feet are parallel with each other.
Yeah, that's right. So your body position is going to be probably a little bit more similar to riding a dirt bike than a regular mountain bike, because your feet are right next to each other. And kind of, I don't know if you can see me too good. Let me back it up a bit.
Yeah, we got you.
But essentially, you're going to be standing up on the pedals. You're generally going to be pretty forward on the bike, and that's once again so that you can have more of your weight on your front ski. And the coolest thing about ski bikes, you can do wheelies.
I've seen you. That's so sick. That's awesome, man. Thank you for demonstrating. This is definitely a first on a podcast. This is just super cool, man. I'm pumped to personally try this out one day, and I'm sure a lot of folks are going to be interested to check this out. On like kind of more of like a local level in the future here. And I can see this totally being a fit, like you guys were saying, like long term on ski hills and stuff. This makes a ton of sense to me, and this is so cool that you guys are on the forefront of this product, and you get to be there, day one as a kind of like an OG, as it were, in the ski bike side of things.
Yeah, I guess the main factor that really caused me to decide like I need to step away from my education right now and pursue this is because I felt right now we're kind of on the cusp where ski bikes are going to go one of two directions. In the next 5 to 10 years, they're gonna take off and you're going to see as many ski bikes as you are going to see snowboards on the hill.
Yeah.
Or they're going to fade away and be like, there's been a number of different inventions or things that people really thought were going to be the next thing in snow sports. People had the, I don't know if you've seen those skateboards with like a ski underneath. They're called snow skates. They're pretty cool, but I think they ended up being a lot more niche than some of the original, OGs, if you will, of that sport really thought they were going to be. And that kind of comes down to the fact that they're not well versed to do all of the same things as skiing and snowboarding is.
Right.
Whereas the ski bikes, the opportunities are limitless, and you can really accomplish anything that you could on a ski or a snowboard. And I would almost go as far to say, and more.
Well, it's definitely a different experience, right? I mean, even between snowboarding and skiing, I mean, one of the reasons I ended up going from personal story sharing here now, but there's Daniel, do you do both? Do you ski and snowboard?
I have a few days on skis, and I have 15 years or more on a snowboard, but I will pretty much never ride any of those pieces of equipment again. That's because I like my ski bike. I just have so much more fun on it, and I can do, I'm always riding with skiers and snowboarders. We do the same stuff. We go on the same trails, but really I just find I have way more fun. And then additionally, kind of in my dirt biking and mountain biking careers, I've accrued some pretty gnarly head injuries, and with the ski bike, because it's so much smoother, because the suspension just absorbs so much of the bumps that you would experience, it's way better for my head to be on this piece of equipment, because I'm not getting all those little like micro concussions, I guess, or shocks absorbing into my body, into my head, that I would on a snowboard.
That's super interesting. I wouldn't have thought of our discussion going that way, but that makes a ton of sense. I mean, for me, and I was going to say the same thing, I just wanted to inquire and see if you had maybe same thing, but snowboarded a lot. I don't even know how many years it would have been since I was probably under like 10. I think I got one of my first like learner board things. They were like plastic with like half. It was a super unique looking thing. It was really cool though, but I'm just like hills, little stuff, River still has like pretty big hills or little like things that you can go and ride on and get a good experience. But like I remember after years of snowboarding and going down like mountains, I was kind of like, I realized how big of a blind spot you really do have over depending which shoulder you're going down on first. Like if you're regular or goofy, or if you're, switching back and forth, there's still like over your shoulder, a bit of a blind spot one way. And I just wanted to try skiing. I remember going to the mountains with a buddy of mine. We watched this movie, Eddie the Eagle. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's like a silly thing. This guy ends up doing, it's not actually like skiing downhill. It's like long jump skiing, if you've ever seen the movie. Watched this dumb movie the night before going out to the hill, and we kind of learned sight unseen, but we're both pretty athletic. Go out and ski for the day, but I just felt way more comfortable getting out there and being able to see kind of in front of me down the hill. And I could see the same thing happening kind of with this product as it were when you're riding down. You can see way in front of you. You have a little bit more control. Not knocking snowboarding. I mean, it's what I grew up started with in terms of like mountain snow sports. But there certainly was over time, a different feel to that going down the hill in terms of getting older and not wanting to break things. And I was just like, hey, I'll do skiing now. But I'm super excited. As I said this once before, but I'm pumped to go try one of these things in the future. Now, skiing and snowboarding, you have, bindings, you're clipped in. These, you have pedals. What kind of footwear are you wearing when you're going down on these things?
You want me to just grab my boots real quick?
Yeah, let's do it, man.
Sure.
Slight pause in episode. Daniel goes to get boots. You can still hear me. I wasn't sure.
This is also one of the main selling points for ski bikes is you can just be so much more comfortable on the mountain all day. And then I get back in my truck. I drive a big manual truck, and I think it's a pain in the butt having to take off your boots when it's all cold outside and change into some shoes you can drive in. I gear up on everything that I'm going to wear in the morning. I'm pretty much just rocking a set of these are Vans MTE snowshoes.
I was gonna ask if those were Vans based on the
Yeah.
logo. That's so sick.
I throw on my boots. I do some pretty gnarly riding, so I'm generally wearing a set of knee pads underneath my gear too, and
Nice.
just kind of makes me feel a little bit more safe while I'm riding. And yeah, I throw on all my gear and I get in my truck and I drive to the mountain, and I don't need to change my boots. I'm comfortable all day long.
Right.
And then like I go back into town and I wear the same boots. Sometimes I don't even change out of my gear and I just go to work or do whatever I'm going to do for the rest of the day. But yeah, that's definitely a major advantage. People wear Sorels. Some people wear snowmobile boots. A lot of people wear snowboard boots, but I just like the added flexibility and maneuverability and comfort, and the fact that I can get into my truck and drive it right afterwards that I get from just rocking these Vans MTEs, and they have like superior traction with the pedals. I am definitely looking for somebody to make a ski bike specific boot. I think there would be some definitely some performance gaining characteristics that we could get out of a product like that. So,
Cool.
any of the mountain bike companies, if you're listening, 510, Ride Concepts, whatever, we want a pair of ski bike boots. People are going to buy them. I'll rock them. I'll do crazy stuff in them. But yeah, for now, we're just most of us are just rocking snow boots.
Interesting. Yeah, like I have, so locally here, just to throw some other things at you here, I'm sure you've seen like fat tire bikes before. I don't know if you've found it or not, but we ride them here in the winter, and we do like trails and stuff with them as kind of an alternative to cross country skiing. Just we're a little flatter here and stuff. I mean, you can kind of do downhill skiing, but not really much of a thing. So in terms of like that kind of riding, I forget what they're called now. It's kind of like a smaller version of like that boot, but it's kind of what I was thinking that you might be wearing for something like that. Those look a little bit more higher up in terms of like on the leg and stuff. Because I don't think a snowboard boot would work that great, in my opinion, because they're kind of like angled forward in a way. If I'm remembering correctly, it's been a while since I've rode, but they're kind of angled up and they're a little bit stiffer around the whole ankle there, right? Like I don't know if you totally want that with what you're riding there. I think that seems like a great option, and you probably want something closer to like more flexibility in the boot ultimately, right?
Yeah, so I'd say the benefits for wearing a snowboard boot, and I don't wear a snowboard boot, it's just it feels too cumbersome and too much of a thing on your foot when you're doing it. It's like you wouldn't wear a super big pair of boots to go mountain biking in, right?
Right, yeah.
But the people that you wear snowboard boots, I think what they like about them is they definitely have the most amount of protection. They're going to be the safest.
Right.
I haven't really rolled my ankle or anything, but I guess it could happen. And then also they're going to be your warmest option probably. So I guess a lot of people like that.
Yeah.
I appreciate having kind of the higher up, longer section of the boot, because the way that another thing is many people ride up the chairlift in different ways. There's kind of a lot of different methods you can do to get onto the chairlift with a ski bike. But the way that I do it is I have the bike in between my legs. I have some videos of this on my Instagram, but I keep the bike in, and I actually have my feet under the pedals to tilt the bike up, and I rest my pedals on this ankle section of the boot. So that helps me, that kind of just saves my ankles from having to get pressed on the pedals while I'm loading and unloading the bike onto the chairlift.
Interesting. Yeah, from the videos that I've seen, it looked like some of them are loaded on the back of some of the chairs as well. Is that right? Or did I see that?
I think that, so some people have the bike sitting right next to them, so they're kind of like,
maybe that's what it was.
Up. It's essentially taken up like another seat on the chairlift. And right now where we're at with the industry is, at most resorts that I've ever been to, the bike counts as an extra person. So you can only, if it's a 4-person chair, you can only ride with like one person, one ski bike, and 2 other riders, or like 2 people and 2 ski bikes, or like 2 ski bike riders. It's another thing, kind of like the leash, that we think is sort of an outdated concept, but since it's what the resorts require, we're happy to accommodate it, just because we're so happy to be allowed to ride these pieces of equipment on the mountain.
That's super cool.
But man, the way that me and most of my friends load the ski bike, it doesn't really take up another spot. It's in between our legs. Right. We could easily have 4 ski bikers on the chair.
Interesting. Yeah, it's probably just a matter of time before that kind of gets like ironed out. Because I know from having, as we mentioned before, about the other stuff that you guys have there for outdoor equipment. We had an outdoor equipment company locally here for a bit. It's now turned into a brand without getting too far down the storyline. But insurance policies alone, like liability wise, for some of the stuff that's been around for a long time, is quite substantial. I'd say. Like even, we were doing fat bikes, kayaks, snowshoes, and these things called kick sleds. I don't know if you ever heard of them, but we still own some. But it was very interesting to explain even kayaking to insurance companies that are from places where they have to consider, sorry about the dog, whales. It was a super weird thing that like came up in conversation multiple times, and I'm like, no, there's no whales. We're like fresh, like we're in the middle of, we're like landlocked. These are like, we might have the odd big fish situation there, but nothing substantial in terms of there being like sea life. But there's always going to be stuff in terms of like mountains, right? Like how do they manage different risk for whatever it is? I could totally see underwriters being concerned about how are they used on chairlifts. What happens if this thing goes barreling down the hill when they're unaware of it right now, right? In terms of incidents, because no matter what you're riding down a mountain, there's a risk of you getting hurt. As you mentioned, you're wearing knee pads and probably hopefully a helmet, and some basic safety equipment that way, just because you are probably riding near trees, other people, no matter what they're riding down on. And then there's, not to use a negative word, but like, avalanche stuff, right? Can always happen no matter where you're riding in. But so they're probably just running their odds that way and being extra safe with you guys initially. But as you mentioned too, over time, it's, one of two options, but it seems like, I feel like you guys are onto something here. Like this is going to be like a very caught on thing. So I don't know how it fits in with the ski appraise vibe yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's super awesome to see, man.
Yeah, so I think you brought up some interesting points right there. The reason that ski bikes were initially Vail, who owns a lot of the mountains around here, you can buy like the Epic Pass, so that covers like hundreds of mountains across the world, and that's a big. The two big companies that own like the majority of the mountains in North America are Altera and Vail. Mm-hmm. And right now they are colloquially allowed at every single Vail resort, which is really cool. And the way that that legislation got passed is it was initially really just seen as an adaptive piece of equipment for people who are amputees or with major back injuries or knee injuries or whatever kind of caused them to not be able to ride other pieces of equipment. And I guess they were just dealing with too many, having to offer people special passes to be able to ride them. And they finally said, all right, these are allowed at all the resorts. And the American Skibike Association, which is a group that I'm a active member of, one of the things that their main objectives are to help educate different mountains and resorts and get the bikes allowed at more places so that more people have accessibility to be able to ride ski bikes.
Yeah, you know what, Danny, you bring up a good point. There was a piece of equipment I saw online, someone riding before, where it looked like they'd had a spine injury or maybe it was something they were born with, but where they almost had like a ski that they were like sitting on and then two like ski, I don't even know what this thing's called, but
on their hands, that's called a
yeah. There was something like that. That's what I was they're like kind of like, thinking of demonstrating where it's kind of like they're using the hands to help guide the main ski that was kind of under their butt to go down the hill. And when you're saying like adaptive, I could totally see like that's not so different than the ski bike in many ways, other than it's a unique piece of equipment for someone to ride down the mountain on, right? And I could see that being super similar to kind of what you guys are doing in many ways, or as simplest form of, having a different piece of equipment. So it makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, so one of the things that I think is so cool about ski bikes is, so generally when I'm riding my ski bike, I'm standing up, and that's how you probably get the most amount of performance. But a lot of people who were kind of their only option to be able to get out onto the slopes and really enjoy the therapy that skiing or snowboarding or ski biking or being on the snow gives you was to ride a sit ski, because they had some spinal cord or leg injuries or whatever. And a lot of riders who were riding sit skis have found that they are able to ride a ski bike and kind of have a lot more, number one, independence on the mountain, because with a sit ski, you're strapped in and you sort of need another skier to be around you to help you out or keep you safe on the mountain, because if you tip over, it's going to be harder to get up. So a lot of those riders are kind of transitioning to the ski bikes. And additionally, in the next few weeks here, one of my personal friends who is a super elite, pretty much like was a pro level dirt bike racer, and had a spinal cord injury and has very little use below his legs, is going to come out, and we're going to get him on it's a slightly adapted ski bike that's more for people who are planning on sitting down the whole time. We're going to get him on a ski bike for the first time and do some cool content with him riding the ski bike, and we're super excited to see how that goes, because he's an awesome athlete. Still, he rides the dirt bike with this adaptive setup where he's strapped in and doing the craziest jumps, but he's strapped into the bike and he can't use his legs, so all his controls are on his hands. Yeah, so we're pumped on that, and just getting as many adaptive and other riders out on the bikes as possible. I think you were talking about insurance, so that's something we've struggled with, and we finally found some really awesome insurance companies that are willing to take us on as customers with our rental shop here in town. And that was definitely something I had to learn all about starting my own business. I think I lost it.
Yeah, we're back now. I think we lost just for a second there, but I mean, like I said, we're getting the real authentic mountain feel. We'll see how this turns out on the other end. Yeah, but we're back now. I can hear you okay, I think.
Cool.
Oh, maybe we are frozen. All right. Try again there, Daniel. Let's see if we're connected a bit.
Testing.
We can hear you now, but it's a little choppier for some reason. But yeah, keep going there. Talk about insurance if you can. We'll see how far we get in.
Yeah, so I mean, I really got into this initially with very little business experience. You know, I've always had a passion for entrepreneurship. In high school, I started Danielitos Chilitos. I sold chili powder that I made.
Awesome.
My brain's always gone to solving, trying to solve different problems with entrepreneurial methods. But when it came down to it, I'd never started a business before. I hadn't really even been around it that much. And my dad was a successful visionary and entrepreneur, but unfortunately, just to kind of go to left field here real quick, he passed away the summer before I kind of got into this whole world of ski biking, and I wasn't super able to use him as a mentor at all. So yeah, I just had to really dive into it and learn all about insurance and, starting your own LLC and getting your articles of incorporation. So that was a super cool learning process. And quite honestly, through this whole process of starting my own company and getting into it, and I've learned so much more than I ever did at college. And maybe that had something to do with my learning disabilities and feeling like the stuff that they were trying to teach me wasn't super relevant. But yeah, with this stuff, if you don't have all your T's crossed and your I's dotted, real bad stuff can happen to you. So it kind of forces you to get right into the deep end and learn everything you can and kind of figure out all that stuff. Sorry, that was kind of a long-ended answer.
No, man. No, and appreciate you sharing that. Sorry to hear about losing your dad like that, man. You're too young to have had that happen. So thanks for sharing, but sorry to hear that. But sounds like you might be, taking off down the same path in many ways. So hopefully it sounds like you might have the right genetics to take on some risk and make this thing a go. But yeah, that sucks in the same breath there. But that's super cool, man. And you know what, it was funny, was just talking about this on another call today about learning by doing, not by theory, reading out of books and stuff. There's only so much you can learn by doing stuff like that. You really have to put yourself out there and get going on things to truly experience them and hopefully have success in that process. If not, a big learning in the way. I've had some failed startups on my journey so far, and we've had some success as well. But I think it's just kind of the more reps you put in, the better. I love the fact that you're dialed in, you're 120% in on this thing. I can just tell by your energy, and it's super cool and frankly contagious, Daniel. You're very passionate about this. It's awesome to see. And thanks for, walking through like the demo on the ski swapping and stuff like that. Like, it just makes it seem so easy and attainable to go and understand now better what a ski bike is truly all about. You've done a great job of harnessing that in here. And so like a lot of, you were mentioning the couple ski resorts that you can go and ski bike at, and is it primarily in the States then that people have this ability, or is this international already? Or where, like, what's the scale of this thing right now? I mean, obviously if you have one, you can probably take it anywhere with you, whether you're allowed to, ride it on the mountain, sort of say. It depends on where you're at, but like what's the scale of ski biking today?
Ski biking, so it's definitely a small sport right now. There's probably around 10,000 ski bikes in the world and less people that actually ride them.
Right. Cool, man.
And yeah, there's guys in Canada, the scene. We're really trying to grow the scene here in Tahoe, but a lot of the days that I'm on the mountain, there's just going to be me and one other ski biker. What's really rare is for me to run into a ski biker that I don't know, because one of the coolest parts about this community is it's so small and tight knit right now. So, I'll run into a ski biker that I've seen on Facebook or chatted with about different parts or whatever on the internet, or most of them we know because we have ski bike rallies. So we'll get as many ski bikers as we can to come to a resort one day, and we'll just do a ski bike takeover. We just had a super fun one at a little resort called Sierra at Tahoe that's local here. But there's a pretty big scene in Europe. I know guys are riding them in Croatia and the Alps. Some rad guys in Canada. And when I really started my ski bike business journey, my whole idea, my thought process was what can I do to share ski biking with the most amount of people possible? And really the thing that sells ski bikes is you can look at it, you can see them on the internet, but that's not really going to sell you on a ski bike. What's going to sell you on a ski bike is the second you hop on it and you do 1 or 2 laps, there's a good chance that you're never going to ride a ski or a snowboard ever again. So our goal is just to get as many people on the ski bikes as possible. So to do that, we've really tried to do everything we can to get the price of our rentals as cheap as possible. So right now, it's going to cost you a similar amount to rent a ski bike from us as it would to rent like a pair of skis and boots for the day. Or, this isn't necessarily what we're doing, but the brand Skibiking is just worked so hard to get the price as low as possible on their ski bikes, to the point where they're going to be the same price as if you're getting a fancy set of skis and bindings, not even including the boots. If you buy a nice set of boots, you're going to be over the price of a solid ski bike. And even like my bike, which is heavily modified, I have like fancy components on it. Like I've changed out the shocks and the forks, which is, I like the way that it feels. It's better for me because I'm taking some heavier hits, but it's not super necessary. My bike's probably all in less than $2,000. And,
nice.
And that's with tons of mods. So, the bike's at like between $1,200 and $1,500.
Awesome. Well, I mean, for a fellow cyclist, that's kind of just like, the math being N+1. Whatever you have, number of bikes, you need another one, is always the bike solution there. So I think this is an easy offering for folks who are already into like mountain gear pretty heavy, want to try something else. This is sweet, Daniel. What's the best way, you mentioned a couple like brands on here, but your own social medias, where can people find you? What are your handles? We'll include them at the bottom of the episode anyways here, but just to get them out there, what are they? How do they find you? How do they, get, find out more?
So my personal account is Daniel_Skibikes. And I post a lot of just fun riding content, tons of interactions. Like the craziest part about riding a ski bike is you're going to spend like half your time riding and half your time answering people's questions on the slopes. It's absurd. I get like 10 questions for every one lap on the ski bike that I do, and sometimes more. You know, I'm constantly like letting people try out my bike, walk it up the hill a little bit, ride it down. And then they like it. I was like, hey, we rent them out here in Tahoe too. So yeah, half of the marketing that I'm doing is just while I'm out riding. You know, it's sweet. But that's awesome. My Instagram, Daniel_Skibikes, our company. We have 2 Instagrams. It's Lake_Tahoe_tours_and_rentals. And then our other one, Tahoe_Skibikes. We post to a lot of them. During the winter time, we go by Tahoe Skibikes because that's going to be the most easiest way for people to find us. You know, they say, hey, what is that? Where can I find one? Tahoe Skibikes, simple. And then in the summertime, because we do so much more than just ski bikes, it's Lake Tahoe Tours and Rentals, because it really encompasses, you know, more of the summertime activities that we have that we're running here at our shop.
Man, that is super awesome. I really appreciate Daniel taking time to be on the podcast today and educating us on ski bikes. This is, I mean, we always have a great time on a podcast here, chatting with guests about business and athletics. And this is like the pinnacle of situations here. It's both incredibly athletic and it's a business. And those two things have been, you know, married up with passion that you bring to the conversation today. And like I said, authentically vary in the mountains. It just turns out a bit choppy. It's okay in my mind. You're very much, living the ski life, so to say, or ski bike life. It's been a pleasure having you on, Daniel. I look forward to chatting more afterwards as we keep in touch with a lot of guests who've been on. Hopefully we get to be down there and try one of these things out in the near future.
Yeah, TahoeSkibikes.com. You can book online, and I'm super pumped. I'm going to be racing again on March 14th and 15th at Arizona Snow Bowl. Okay. And we do couple races every year. It's super fun, exciting, intense racing. And this last race that I did in Nordic Valley, Utah, I was warming up my gloves in the car and I missed my first race, which stuck me into the LCQ, the last chance qualifier, and I got hit by another rider and taken out of the race. But this next race, I'm going for the #1 position. I want to be a ski bike champion. I've always missed it every single time. I keep getting like third places, but this time I'm going for it. So stay updated for that. And
cool.
Steven, you got to get out here and try one, man.
I do. This is definitely on my list. So yeah, we'll chat more post production here. But I'm gonna wrap things up for the day, Daniel, if that's okay with you. This has been awesome. So thank you so much for making time. And hang tight after the episode. We'll chat for a minute. I'll end it here though. Thanks so much.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, of course.